Nettles, or stinging nettles, that's the common name. It's such an important plant. First of all, it's a nutritional tonic. It contains high amounts of vitamins and minerals. It's like drinking a big multivitamin pill, and your body absorbs the nutrients in a cup of nettles tea much better than a vitamin supplement. I use this plant more than any other plant. It grows in the wild and it's worth seeking out and harvesting. You use the entire plant, the leaf, the seeds, and the roots. It's a little tricky though. The nettle's leaves contain formic acid and it stings when you brush against it. It's not very pleasant. So you need to wear gloves when picking the plant. I also wear gloves when I'm processing the dry leaves. The sting goes away when the plant is dry. Usually growing right near it is the yellow dock and the plantain plant, and they act as a antidote to the sting. You just chew up the leaves and apply it to the sting. Nettles is found in the wild, mostly in fields, but I've seen it grow well in the woods. People usually get rid of it if it's in their yard because it does sting. In my experience, it's best not to plant this plant in your garden. It's very aggressive and very powerful and will spread quickly. I speak from experience. It took me years to eliminate it from my small garden plot in my yard. Recently, a garden volunteer planted it near our big herbal garden, much to my misgivings. This is the first spring, and this is what it looks like in the fall, and we'll have to monitor it. It's a very tenacious plant, and it likes it there. Given a chance, it would take over. For some reason, nettles is one of the plants in my experience that is commonly misidentified. People know that it can be a hurtful experience when encountering it, so they assume that the thorny thistle plant or the prickly mature motherwort plant is nettles. You use the leaves, seeds, and root of the nettles plant. Nettles emerges very early in the spring. It was one of the first plants that people picked after a long winter, and they use it as a pot herb. A pot herb is what they call a leafy herb or plant that you cook up as greens. I harvest the leaves early in the spring before the plant flowers. The young leaves are delicious in a tea or infusion, but the leaves get increasingly tough and tough tasting as the season progresses. You pick the seeds and the roots in the fall. I use nettle leaves as a spring vegetable. This year I made a cream of nettle soup, which was delicious. Usually I make a tea or infusion of nettles. I also grind up the dry leaves and make it into a nutritional powder with other herbs. Nettles works best as a tonic herb. I use the dry leaves in a tea or infusion, and I make a nutritional tea blend with other nutritional plants such as oats, alfalfa, horsetail, and dandelion. Nettles contains antihistamines which help people with their seasonal allergies. I've heard and read that in order for nettles to work for allergies, it has to be in this freeze-dried preparation. I've not found this to be the case at all, not with me or other people. Drinking a cup of nettles tea daily before the season kicks in and during the season helps combat those annoying symptoms. I have a seasonal allergy to flowering trees in the very early spring, so I have to remind myself each year to start drinking nettles tea just before everything starts to bloom. Years ago, my daughter was on a cross-country running team, and we figured out that a combination of ground nettles and kelp in a capsule form taken just before her meets helped her. In fact, it helped the kids on the team as well as some of my marathon running friends. I think it works as a electrolyte booster.
Nettle leaves, I love to drink. It's such a good energy boost. Whenever I'm feeling down, little low in iron, I drink nettle tea. It just makes the world seem a better place. I also like using the mature leaves and the stalks of the nettle, either fresh or dried. Put them in the bathtub and soak. It's going to take soreness out of your joints. Your whole body is going to move better. And I do this repeatedly until all of my joints feel better, especially in the fall where we have these cold, damp days. Sometimes the body just isn't sure what's going on. So a good soak puts you in a good space. Men have gout 20 times more often than women. So this soaking is extremely good for men. It helps take away the painful gouty joints. If it's in your feet and you don't feel like soaking in the bathtub, you can get an old pair of boots, put the water in and soak your feet in that, or just get a pan and soak your feet in it every night for about 20 minutes to half an hour. That's usually very effective. Nettle seeds are fabulous. A few years ago, well, a few probably at this point, being 6 or 7, a lady called me from Florida and wanted the nettle seed for her cat who had renal failure. We overnighted them to her. Her cat got better immediately. She wrote a blog about it, and many people have ordered nettle seed from us for their cats or dogs for that reason, with amazing results. As a result of that, we put a small pinch in the cat's food every day. We have about 7 or 8 cats here, and it just keeps them healthy. I have found that it also works really well for people. If you're having anything going on with your kidneys, drinking a cup of nettle tea, or again, taking a small pinch of the nettle seed, because they're extremely small, putting them in your food and eating is extremely helpful. We harvest the nettle seed in the fall when the fruit is ripe, and we like to get them before they've turned brown or gray. We also find that, I guess what you would call the hull of the seed, because they're so tiny, is also very nutritious. Nettle root I usually use as an antihistamine. So if you get a bee bite or bee sting, you can drink a cup of that, either the leaves or if you want, with the root mixed in. And it works to relieve the swelling in that you get from the bee sting. I also use it in a formula for the male prostate. It helps to shrink the prostate and just to become more comfortable.